the entire point of the acquisition side is to put, weapons, tools, systems in the hand of the warfighter. What is this new approach going to mean for the warfighter in the field?
The Undersecretary, Mr. Hunter's team, and I are deeply, deeply involved in looking at our requirements, making sure that we revalidate all the requirements, and we can trace every single one of them back to either presidential guidance or departmental guidance for, things like safety, security, maturity, survivability, all the things that you would want in a system that you're going to rely on to keep the nation safe through effective deterrence. Because we have designed platforms to do missions, and we've focused on platform level integration, we tend to get affixed by the prefix. What I mean by that is, what do we do with airplanes that start with a C? Well, we carry cargo because they start with a C. What do we do with airplanes that start with a B? Well, we drop bombs. Why? Because it starts with a B. And, in an Air Force where we have launched cruise missiles out of the back of C-17s and dropped people out of the bomb bay of, B-24s and things of that nature, I don't even know what a cargo airplane is or a bomber is or a fighter is. I know what the mission that we have to get done is.
I'm sorry, what were you going to say, sir?
Well, yeah, and I think one other thing that this mode of analysis helps us do is to really set priorities. So, we know that we need to move fast because we have a pacing threat that is moving at a very rapid pace. But moving fast in and of itself doesn't necessarily help us if we're not moving fast with the right capabilities in the right direction. Right? We have to understand where to pick and choose. And so my exemplar of moving fast is our Collaborative Combat Aircraft program, where we went essentially from initial inception and first funding to vendors bending metal in the space of 2 years, which is pretty good by government standards. And we were able to do that because we built on a foundation. We built on a foundation of an architecture. We built on a foundation of a network that allowed us to connect to vendors. We built on a foundation of mission systems work that had already been done. And so we had that foundation ready to go. Well, that's great. How many of those foundations do I need? Where do I need them? What do I need as a technical foundation for the ISR that I'm going to need to perform to do moving target indication at scale? So understanding where do I need to go build more of those foundations, more of those technical architectures, more of those network architectures is informed by this collaboration and this work between the operational acquisition community to decompose mission threads and understand this is where we need to go build that foundation so that we can move fast today, but we can, as importantly, move fast in the coming decades to field new capability as we discern that it's necessary.
The Air Force contracted with Anduril and General Atomics for the first increment of CCAs, and I believe you said you were planning to decide on a contract to actually produce the first increment in FY26, if I recall correctly. How's that effort going, and what progress have you seen to help you decide, that might help you decide where you're going to land in FY26 as far as producing them?
Let me talk a little bit about sort of how does the contracting approach work. And this is something that I have sort of loosely called a next generation acquisition model of how do we want to be more continuous? How do we get that continuous competition that I've talked about that's going to drive innovation? How do we make sure we have the long-term capability development happening? And it's through these large vendor pools. Well, what's a large vendor pool? In essence, in contracting terms, it's a large IDIQ contract where we have relationships with multiple contractors. We give them individual, tasks to go perform, and we can award options. It doesn't end. Usually they're longer running contracts. There's no, it doesn't necessarily end on a given date because you can always issue a new task. It's highly competitive at the task level. It's highly competitive in folks getting into the vendor pool, but it doesn't lend itself to these big high stakes winner take all, 30 years franchise for someone when they win, because you always have that option within the vendor pool to go to another vendor to do the work that you need to do that you just learned about or that's coming around the corner.